Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome to another Crime Couple episode. What started out as a typical Sunday night on January 2nd, 2000, a young 18-year-old man named Zebb Quinn of Asheville, North Carolina left his job at a local Walmart to go meet up with a friend. And that was the last time he's ever been seen. All right, so Zebb Quinn was born May 12th, 1981, and he lives in Asheville, North Carolina, and he's 18-year-old at the time of his disappearance, and he worked for the local Walmart, and he worked in the electronics. Now, he was also like an ROTC program, I think.
Yeah.
He wasn't like slow, but he had like a learning disadvantage, and he was also kind of like socially awkward. He was definitely more like an introvert. He didn't have a lot of like close friends. He had more of like acquaintances, it was described. And so I do know that he lived with his mother and his sister. His father was also a veteran, and I'm not sure which branch out of. I did read that his dad and his mom did divorce when he was really young. So he's always been extremely close to his mother and sister. He, like I said, didn't have many friends. He did have a few acquaintances, and one of the closest acquaintance friends that he would have is someone named Robert Jason Owens, which is going to be a huge center part of our story here. And I think he also worked at Walmart part-time, and then he also worked for, but it was like, what do they do, like the crane diesel operations, like something like equipment, Volvo?
It wasn't vehicles.
It wasn't vehicles.
Yeah. On January 2nd, 2000, Zebb left work at Walmart and met up with his friend Robert Jason Owens. And they were going to look at a Mitsubishi Eclipse. They were really into cars, and Zebb currently drove a Mazda Protege. So they stopped at a Citgo gas station to get some drinks and snacks to go for this ride to go look at this car. They left around 9 p.m. and they were both driving their separate vehicles. And they started on their way to go look at this car, and a few minutes after driving, Zebb flashed his lights, which kind of signaled his friend to pull over. Zebb said he received a page and he needed to go make a phone call. This was before we had cell phones like on our hip and could, get a hold of anybody at one time. So he had to go find a payphone. So they suggested he go back to that Citgo, go make a phone call. So he did. He said, "Stay right here on the side of the road. I'm gonna go make this phone call. I'll be back in 10 or 15 minutes. So when he returns, Robert said that Zebb was like frantic and anxious and just real disheveled. And he said, "Something important came up. I need to go." Not before rushing out frantically, he did rear-end Robert's vehicle at that time and then just kind of drove off.
And he's like, "Sorry, I'll set up with you later. I gotta take off."
Right.
So whatever it was, it seemed to be kind of urgent or very important. So at that point, Quinn left. There's no real report of exactly what Robert Owens was going to do afterwards or what he did right after that point, but we know that they're no longer together based off of Robert Owens' story. So his mom, Zebb Quinn's mom, was supposed to go out. I don't know if it was like a dinner date or she was just going out with a friend. She was supposed to go out to dinner that night, and so she normally keeps in touch with him. She tried to send him a page and noticed that he didn't respond. So she went ahead, went out to dinner, came back home, noticed he wasn't there, sent him another page, still no answer. And she had said that this was very uncharacteristic. He's always real quick to get back to her, or at least send her something back so that she knows that he's busy. Right. Yeah. So a couple days go by. I mean, it's like 2 days past when he last.
Nobody heard from him.
From when he left Robert Owens on the side of the road. His call, a call comes through at the Walmart he works at, right? And it's a call claiming to be Zebb Quinn, and they're trying to call out of work for that day's shift. So they call in and say, "Hey, not feeling good. I can't make it in. This is Zebb Quinn. I'm not going to be there."
Yeah, right away.
Yeah.
The girl knew. I mean, we listened to a few. There was a girl, there was a guy, it was his manager, it wasn't his manager. Somebody received the call and recognized that this is not Zebb's voice, and
because they knew him, they worked with him.
Right.
They recognized the voice. No, this isn't it.
Yeah.
So after feeling suspicious, the person that answered the call at the Walmart star 69, so, and reverse dialed the number. So, did it as an unknown caller, called the number back. Lo and behold, it's to the Volvo equipment facility where Jason Owens works.
Yeah.
So at this point, the Walmart associate calls Quinn's mother and lets him know. She goes ahead and files a police report and says the same thing. The police also track this down. They do confirm that the call originated from the Volvo.
And that it wasn't Zebb.
And when questioned, Robert Owens admitted it. He's like, yep, I did it. I called in as Zebb. And they're like, why? They're like, oh, Zebb asked me if I wouldn't mind calling in for him, saying that he couldn't come in. And they're kind of like, why didn't Zebb just call in himself? And he didn't have an answer for it. So this is when a lot of the focus really rests on Owens.
So at this time, Zebb, was still young, was feeling out girls, and he was supposedly dating this girl named Misty. And he was really into her and, said to a lot of people, this is my girlfriend. But her, on the other hand, didn't really see it as a serious relationship. She figured they were more friends, as she did have a boyfriend that I guess was possessive and abusive, and she also had a kid.
The boyfriend's name, I think, was Wesley or Wesley.
Yeah, Wesley.
And yeah, as Ash was saying, he was kind of a control freak. And there had been multiple times where Zebb had wanted to talk with Misty or go see her, and there's actually a few accounts where he went to her house without warning, and her boyfriend was home, and it caused a big issue. And there was another time where he didn't star 69 the phone call, and he called and he answered and he figured it out. So there's been some bad blood. And I mean, regardless if the guy is abusive or not, if someone's out, trying to continuously talk to your girlfriend, you're going to get upset.
Right.
But apparently this guy was like, I'm going to beat his ass.
He's dead meat.
Exactly. So, I mean, he was taking it pretty seriously. And so Zebb really gave off these vibes of, I'm scared. Like, I'm scared of this guy in this situation, right? So, all that being said, the police start looking into the disappearance, what happened. So they start questioning Owens. Owens goes through the accounts of what we talked about earlier about them going in the car, getting on the side of the road, him getting a page, and having his thing gone. So, they went to go trace back the page of where it originated from to see who sent it. When they did, they found that it was actually sent from the home of Zebb Quinn's aunt. Now, this is not an aunt that they're very close with. They see each other occasionally. I would imagine family outings or get-togethers, but they weren't very close. Oddly enough, his aunt was out at dinner that night on a parent business meeting of some sort. I'm not sure exactly what business she holds, but she was with Misty, Misty's boyfriend, and Misty's mom.
Yeah.
So all of those people, that whole group going on, and his aunt's with them.
So she denied making that phone call, and then later said, oh, someone broke into my house, there were some picture frames changed or moved
Things
or
moved
stolen.
around.
So, I mean, where did that phone call really come from then? Or who? 2 weeks after Zebb's disappearance, on January 16th, authorities were able to locate his vehicle. And it was at some barbecue joint, Little Pig's Barbecue on McDowell Street. And conveniently located near this barbecue joint was a hospital, St. Joseph's Hospital. And Quinn's mother, his grandmother, and his sister all worked there as neonatal nurses. So they were thinking that this car was placed there. And like I said, he did drive a Mazda Protege. I think it was white. When they drove by, they would see it and, it would alert them, oh, Zebb is okay, or there's his vehicle. When they did go into the vehicle, there was a plastic hotel key.
This is weird. This is
drinking bottles, a Labrador puppy,
3-month-old puppy, alive,
a live puppy, and then there was a lipstick tracing with lipstick on the back window.
Also, like a jacket that wasn't his.
Right. So when they looked to find out where this hotel key came from, it was kind of a generic one, and they couldn't locate the hotel for the key.
And they said they checked multiple hotels, and none of them seemed to be missing. And I don't know if this was like what kind of hotel key it was, if it was a literal like.
No, it was a key card.
So that's another thing I was reading about. Like, if you had a key card and it has a strip, you should be able to run the strip, and it should be able to dump off data text into it so you could track where it came from.
Yeah, but they looked at local hotels, and it must have not been one local because
It probably wasn't.
none of them had recognized the key. So that was a dead end.
Good news about the puppy. One of the responding detectives actually ended up adopting the puppy.
So it has a good home.
It has a home. The puppy's fine. And I think that was when I first heard that, I was like, what about the
poor
dog?
I know. Who would do that?
Now, there's some interesting reports that came back on this, because we did recently talk about Misty, and there's a weird couple of like theories of what could have happened. But there was reports of a woman driving around in that same similar car on the days or week previous to that. And then they had taken a couple account witnesses that actually got a partial plate. Now the partial plate did match characters on the actual plate of the vehicle, and then they were able to give a description, and the picture that was drawn out was seemingly close to what Misty resembles as far as the sketch. So years and years went by, and the case went cold.
And that's true here in the mountains with the Zebb Quinn case. 12 years ago, the teenager was last seen in Asheville after he left work.
No new leads have developed for years in this case, but the teenager's mother is holding out hope that someday she'll have some answers.
There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about Zebb and wonder where he is, what he would be doing now if he was still with us.
Zebb's mother, Denise Vlahakis, has only pictures and memories of a son with a bright future, working at Walmart on Hendersonville Road. His mother has some hope he could have been kidnapped and is still alive.
Since we've never found his body, in the back of my mind, there's always the possibility. In Zebb's case, I think that there's so many other pieces of information that we have that lead more to the probability of foul play. But until we find his body, in the back of my mind, there's always a little bit of hope.
Nothing new, no new evidence. I don't even think they ever found a body. I haven't seen any reports of them even finding a body for this guy. And we're up to the year 2015.
On March 15th, which is my dad's birthday.
And Robert Owens comes back into the picture. Now, previous to this, Robert Owens has not had a very straight path life. He's had a few run-ins, some DUIs. I think he had a car robbery that he did.
This face is not a new one to the Asheville Police Department.
Robert Jason Owens has a criminal history dating back to 1999. That was his first DWI.
36-year-old Robert Jason Owens is in the news now, but you might already know him for past crimes.
In 2002, he was involved in a high-speed chase with APD where he shot at officers during the chase.
In that case, Asheville police say Owens was also driving drunk, leaving him with charges like reckless driving and assault on a police officer.
He has narcotics charges and most recently been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and murder of an unborn child.
That brings us to today, but if you go back in time even before 2002, you'll find a missing persons case in 2000 involving the disappearance of a Buncombe County teen named Zebb Quinn.
Attempted assault on an officer, some crazy stuff. He's been in and out of jail. He's not a good guy, okay? He's not a good guy.
And it finally caught up to him.
So you said
March 15th.
It was March 15th, 2015. Robert Owens is arrested for the murder of a husband and wife, the Codds, and an unborn baby because she was pregnant. And I can't remember her name. And so it's Christy and JT Codd. And Christy was actually pretty well known in the area because she was on one of the Food Network stars TV shows.
And she was really pretty too. I was like, oh my God, poor girl.
And so they have this little family going on. They're starting a family. They have some small town fame. They have, I think, a couple of their own businesses. They're very outdoorsy, very well known.
Hi folks, I'm Christy Schoen, and I like to fish, I like to hunt, and man, I love to cook. I also like drinking beer with the best of them. But don't get me wrong, I'm just a red-blooded American girl who doesn't mind getting my hands dirty now and then.
And they go missing, and it turns out that JT and Christy had hired Jason Owens to do some around the house
jobs around the house
because
right.
he was bad on money. Now at the time, Owens was married, and him and his wife were in quite a bit of debt. So he had offered to pay Owens, to do these different jobs around the house to help him out. And that's charitable, it's helpful, and that's reported as what kind of people they were. Apparently, while doing some work over at their house, Owens was driving JT Codd's 2008 Dodge Ram. And he had said that he had got stuck in the mud. And what happened is, as trying to get out, he accidentally hit them and killed them. So, it just doesn't seem very realistic that that is what happened, but that is the story that we have. Some family members reported them missing for a few days without.
They were supposed to go to a family event in Mississippi, and they never showed up.
Didn't hear anything from them. And then police also got a weird tip. So a passerby or a neighbor, there's someone that was close in the area, and maybe they were living in the same area. They had also called in and made a report that said they noticed someone dumping unusually large objects, like they're trying to get rid of stuff.
We were able to recover what we think are human remains. Part of those were recovered from a wood stove at that residence. They identified that someone had come out and in a very suspicious way had left things in a dumpster there at Donna Drive. We responded, and at that point in time, we were able to locate items which we knew belonged to Christy Schoen-Codd. They did find Christy Schoen's ID in that dumpster, and several other items that came from the house.
And so police went and investigated this, and they went to the dumpster area where it was reported. And what they found inside were property and IDs for
from JT and Christy.
Yeah, and especially they found a couple of different things from Christy. And they had followed up with it and went to go question Owens, because he was the person that met the description that lived in the area. And when they did, he completely admitted to it again. Just like he did.
He's not a liar.
Just like he did in the first time with, talking about that he called in to work for Zebb when it wasn't really there. So he's like, yep, no, I did. And so he starts bringing out this elaborate story where he goes into detail of, I accidentally killed them with the truck, right? And then I didn't want to get in trouble. So what does he do?
Yeah, I don't call the police.
You don't
report them that I hit them on accident. I chop them up and put them in my fire stove, my wood stove in my house to try to get rid of them.
So he dismembered these people like it's nothing. I'm like,
and that's not an easy
I'm like,
task.
you don't just do that from an accident, right? Like you don't just. So
I don't know what would have caused him to go from 0 to 60. Like, how do you go from
0 to 100?
Go from being neighbors to these people, getting along with them, they're kind people.
They're paying you for work.
Right, to just murdering them. Obviously, this guy has a screw loose. And like Harrison said, he was on the wrong side of the law. He wasn't a good person. I mean, he's got something psychologically wrong with him in order to be able to do something like that.
And it's also mentioned that, after the burning didn't take care of all the pieces of them, if you will. So he did dump some of the parts, and there's a couple different spots where they said that
they put them in different dumpsters.
Like different areas.
Yeah. To try to conceal it.
And also, what his thing was about dumping some of their property was he wanted to go ahead and make it look like they had been robbed.
Darcel, police aren't saying anything about what they found, like whether it was human bones or if they believe they have discovered Quinn's remains. So these documents still leave us with a lot of questions. It was nearly 3 months ago on March 31st that Asheville police executed a search on Jason Owens' property days after he was charged with the murders of Christy and JT Todd and their unborn child. All along, Owens has been a person of interest in the disappearance of 18-year-old Zebb Quinn.
It's very complex, as you've reported on. Mr. Owens was a person of interest in the Quinn disappearance from 2000, and those kind of things do make the case. It does make the case much more complicated.
Those search warrants released Monday tell us what investigators involved in Quinn's case found. Fabric, leather materials, unknown hard fragments, unknown white powder substance, metal, and concrete are the listed items seized from Owens' property on that day. That search happened after one of Owens' unnamed relatives led police back to his property and said Owens poured concrete 8 feet long and 8 feet wide and claimed he was constructing a fish pond sometime after Quinn disappeared in January 2000. That individual also told police it was, quote, at a distance from the residence that would not be convenient to enjoy it from, and was not completed, and said Owens later covered it with fill dirt.
So, on top of everything else, he's just trying to make it look like something else happened. That's extreme cover-up. So it was definitely not an accident. There's no way that anyone believes that.
After all that, in April of 2017, Owens did plead guilty to 3 counts of second-degree murder and 2 counts of dismemberment of the bodies. And that was obviously the murders of JT and Christy Todd.
And their unborn baby.
Yeah, don't forget that little guy.
Then months later in 2017, the grand jury of this county, and it's Buncombe?
Buncombe. I'm sorry, we're slaying that.
I'm sure it's in North Carolina somewhere.
Yeah.
If you look on a map and you search Bun.
It's Buncombe. Okay, so he was indicted.
He was indicted for the murder of Zebb Quinn.
Believe they have their man, and he was already in custody. He is charged with a murder that happened 17 years ago. 7 News first told you last night about the indictment against Jason Owens. Brianna Smith has new details from investigators who cracked this cold case.
Yeah, Robert Jason Owens was the last known person to see Zebb Quinn alive. And just 3 months after Owens was sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison for a double murder, he's now going to face another trial. Today, a lead investigator with the police department spoke about those recent developments. Investigators wouldn't say what the missing piece was that allowed them to present a case against Owens to the grand jury yesterday, but they did say that they were relieved to have a rest in the case.
And there's not really, he's never really spoken about that night. We don't have a body. We don't know what happened. This guy's wacko.
And he obviously is capable of murder. He's obviously capable of doing bad things.
Right, and it was the last person to see Zebb. And yes, he tells the truth to some degree, but then he tries to excuse what he did. So again, we don't have the story of Zebb Quinn. And thankfully, we have somebody who was, charged with it, but it's still...
Because there's other theories. There's other theories that it was that
Misty...
that Owens didn't really know anything. He's telling the truth, and Misty and her boyfriend Wesley had set it all up.
Right.
And that they
But that's unlikely. Like you said, this guy's obviously capable of murder.
The other theory is that they were all 3 in on it. Now, the only problem with that is there's no connection that can be made between Jason Owens and Wesley and Misty. But that doesn't mean anything. Things can happen, and obviously they try to keep it quiet. So some people were saying that he was leading them out there, they were going to take care of it, but they'd all have different alibis for what's going on. Another weird thing is that night, after the Zebb Quinn had left the area and left Owens by himself, about 3 a.m. that next morning, he was treated at a local urgent care for head injuries and broken or bruised ribs.
And he said that, not only did he get in one car accident that night.
Because Zebb hit him.
Yes, that he got into another one, and that's why he showed up at the hospital. Now, I think Zebb fought back for his life and beat the shit out of him, or attempted to. because, I mean, I don't think he went down without a fight.
And there's no police report from this happening.
No,
There's
of the accident.
the accident happening. The damage on the truck was very minimal.
Not that he would sustain head injury
Yeah,
and broken
not
ribs,
to that
like
degree.
you need airbag deployment or, you know, to hit the dash pretty good.
Because the damage on it was pretty
Inconsistent.
It was inconsistent with that, but it was consistent with, you know, an idea of Zebb hit it with like a little fender bender.
Right.
But definitely not another accident. Everything's conflicting on this, and I think one of the most confusing and upsetting part of this is that there's no body. We have no idea what's going on. No one's talking, and I mean, you have just the smallest amount of leads, and a just weird case. There's the puppy dog.
Yeah. At least someone was charged. End of story.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate all the support. We did just pass 100 subscribers, so that is a goal of ours.
Thank you so much.
We are going to move on. Our next goal that we're going to be trying to hit is 500. So 500 is the next goal. Please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, just hit the subscribe button. You're really, really weird if you watch this all the way through and you aren't subscribed to us. That's weird. You're a creep.
Now, we were thinking about doing like a live session, so let us know what you think, if that's something that any of y'all would be wanting to be a part of, just to kind of, you know, go over the case and then get some like live feedback. So let us know what you think, if that's an option as well.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for watching.